Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday night segment of The Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network UFO Paranormal Radio Network 105.3 from the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM from New Orleans. We're fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee who have been a part of our journey since the very beginning. So thank you, Folgers. We couldn't do it without you, nor would we want to. Also, big thank you to Justice Snicker, aka Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, for his contribution of his time, his music, and his voice for the intro that you just heard. He is an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, which can be found on all of your favorite music streaming platforms. Also, big thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind the banners and logos here at the show. Check him out on Facebook and Instagram. Also specializes in the horror genre, but does phenomenal commission pieces. Also, this is for us, but we are so happy to announce again for the second year in a row that we are sponsoring the Halifax Paranormal Symposium. It will be held on Saturday, October 12th, 2024 at the Halifax Tower Hotel and Conference Center from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. We're giving you enough notice, people. We're giving you enough notice, so you guys should be able to make this work. And of course, as we get closer, we'll be sharing guest information and so on and so forth. So tonight's going to be a lot of fun for me because we are welcoming for the very first time a very dear friend, Dr. Yana Greenberg, who has a show, actually two, here on the network. She's got Science and Paranormal on Tuesday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern with Dr. Elliot Van Dusen, who's also been on the show. We all know and love him. And she's got a show called Be Honest on Fridays at 3 p.m. Eastern, and totally not what you're going to expect, but totally must see. And you go check it out and you'll know why, because if you've got some relationship issues and dealing with narcissists, things like that, don't we all? She's a chick you want to go and check out because she's going to help straighten it out, and she's got some great guests as well. So without further ado, my friend Yana, hello.
Hello.
How
Dear
are you?
Michelle. Thank you. Oh, good. How are you this evening?
I'm okay. I am okay. It's been a day, but that's all right. Made it through. And of course, Amelia's not with us, and I know she wanted to be. She was really looking forward to this episode, and she's just down with a bug and migraines, and the poor thing just can't seem to get away with it. So as we have these tumultuous weather systems coming through and pressure migraines. And I feel for anybody who is suffering that. It's not fun by any means.
Oh, yeah. Solar flare, radiation storms.
Right?
It's been so crazy for the past week. It's been awful.
Oh, it has. It
was beautiful, although, right, for the half of the world, not for me. I wasn't able to see it.
It's nice to see. I tried 3 nights in a row to see, and I couldn't.
And you did.
No, because you have to see it like 1:30 onward in the morning. And I'm just like, I am just not doing it. I grew up north and I saw them all the time. So I'm thinking, it'd be nice to see it again because this is a really big event. And I'm just like, no, I'm just not doing it. And next day I'd see all these incredible pictures like, I should have done it. I know. So anyway, but I got some people chiming in, Janie, Mark, Catherine, hello. But you know what? I am really glad that you're joining me. I've actually done a show. I've done Yana's show before, and I've done Science and Paranormal with you as well. And now
you need to come to be honest. Yeah, you have to be honest with me, as I'm going to be honest with you today.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Are you kidding? Oh, hey, hello, Wayne. Nice of you to join us. So where do you want to start? I mean, it's a lot of people, especially professional people, do not necessarily want to come out and talk about paranormal experiences. And that's a whole that's on the future show in July. Mark your calendars, guys. We'll go over that before we end the show. But that's one thing to talk about the paranormal. But a lot of professional people don't want to come through and talk about being an ET or UFO experiencer. Yet here you are.
Absolutely. And it took me probably 25 years to do that.
Oh,
To come out of the closet, right?
okay.
I
Well,
did.
what prompted
Well,
you to do it? Like, why now? Like, why did you feel you couldn't? Like, why you had to wait?
Well, because like you're saying, being professional, it is not so professional to come out and talk about the topic that is considered all pseudoscience and a lot of nonsense because we can't
Yeah.
prove anything. It's just like hearsay, and we
Yes.
can't really prove a lot of it. Although we look for the proof and the evidence, and we publish it, and there are a lot of it. And at the same time, there are a lot of people who have experienced so many different things, and I'm not talking about it just
Right.
because
Right.
they will be looked down upon.
Right.
But
Right.
for me, interestingly enough, a long time ago, when I was 17, I was lucky to learn my mission in life, what I was supposed to be doing. And even at that time, I didn't like to follow the rules. I never followed the rules. I've been kind of a rebel.
I
And
know.
like,
Rules are for square people. I know. I was the same at the time. The
yeah.
mentality. Right.
Nevertheless, my nickname has been everywhere, anywhere that I go. People name me under different words, of course, using different words, but the concept is the same. It's like Miss Prudence. It's like I'm Miss Right, right? I follow the rules and the laws. I'm the right person, the correct. So it is interesting, but at the same time, I did not want to follow anything that would tell me what to do. I hate when people tell me
Right.
what to do, especially my parents, also because they have the right to tell me what to do, and I don't like it. So yes, at that time, I said, I'm not doing this because it is absolutely weird, you know.
Hmm.
Uh, I set up for myself to um, get all of this degree in psychology, and I was a linguist, and I wanted to go into the world, and I did not want to be sitting back and looked upon as one of those knowing mothers, like women, at that time, young woman with a word on her nose, kind of witch.
Right. Right.
That's what people think of you when they don't
Right.
understand what you're talking about, of course.
Right.
And I said no. I
Right.
said no, and I went to get my secular education. I went to get my bachelor's. I had two bachelors, for Pete's sake. Why did I need two? I don't know at that time. And one of them was in religious studies. So that
Right.
helped me a lot.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. I
and
bet it
and
did.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then
Right.
I got my master's also in philology and linguistics, and then my PhD in human sciences. So
Right.
psychology has been my friend all along.
Right. Right.
But I have,
So that's that. Yeah, that makes it a little bit tough to come out and say, "Oh, by the way, you can add to my resume that I'm an ET experiencer, UFO experiences. I've had haunted experiences." You know, that would be very difficult when you're trying to establish yourself. So, when was your first experience? Let's start from the beginning then.
my experiences when I was a child, from long time ago, as I remember, probably starting at 5. That's what I remember.
Wow.
I would know who would die when.
Mhm.
Simply put,
Right.
I would tell my parents, of course, not anybody else. I would tell my parents, and surely enough, uh, that would happen. That would follow suit exactly at those times and the days and the ages of the people,
Mm.
and scared them. That scared them, but at the same time, they already knew that I was a strange child. So
Mhm.
evidently, being strange, I always wanted to be normal.
Ah, I hear
And
you.
yes, always wanted to fit in. I wanted to be normal.
Right,
And of course, that is why I did not do what I was supposed to be doing to embark on that journey, on the journey that I am now.
right.
It just took me 20 plus years to do that. But nevertheless, I'm here, and
Mhm.
I learned that being normal is boring. Like
Right,
Carl Jung said, give me a normal person and I will cure him for you.
right.
So,
Or just wake them up, give them a little slap. It's interesting, that your parents, like, they received the information fairly well, like, they didn't try to discourage you or say, "Don't talk about it," or, "No, you're this can't
oh,
be."
yes, they did.
Oh,
Yes,
they
they did,
did?
of course, because
Okay.
they said you can talk to us, but you can't talk to the public about it. Please don't do that because that's an
No, no.
immediate diagnosis,
Right.
schizophrenia.
Oh,
That
yeah, yeah, I know,
because
exactly.
nobody is going to be listening to me,
Right,
right, and looking for evidence,
right.
and that would be really problematic in life. Besides, those things that I would tell my parents, they would be an objective reality, and that would come true.
Mm, right.
Interestingly enough, I would see spirits at that time, and I did not know what were ghosts or spirits, whatever it was at the time. I
Mhm,
would see all sorts of creatures, and I would uh, draw them on a paper, and I
mm,
had lots of drawings. But since we left the
mm,
country and immigrated to United States,
mhm,
I no longer have those drawings. But yes, I did not speak openly about it
mm,
almost to the time when I was 14.
mm.
And that was a very tumultuous time.
Of course.
Um, in
Puberty.
well, actually, I was okay.
Yeah. No, but I
Michelle, I
mean,
was okay.
no, but I mean, even being like a preteen or a young teen, you have these emotions. It's more emotional than anything else because I mean, women, we're emotional beings, and whether you're going through menopause or just coming into womanhood, we are like roller coaster rides with emotions going through that.
Oh, till the end of our lives. You just need to mention that.
Especially when you turn into a mother, you become a mother and then you have a daughter who goes through the same thing. It's like, oh boy, here we go. It's never leaving me. Right. But
No, and it is okay. It is absolutely okay. It makes us who we are. And we were
exactly.
made women for a particular reason, and we should celebrate that we're women and not men. Because when I was little, I grew up with my brothers, and I did not have any sisters. And I
Right.
always wanted to be a boy.
Ah,
And thank
wow.
God that I didn't. It's
Right.
nowadays that would encourage, oh, you have
It's
to
all over the place
follow
now. It
your
doesn't matter.
identity and stuff. But no,
Yeah,
no, no.
for
That
sure.
was very innocent. Yeah.
So tell me about some of your experiences. Where did you see a craft or did you have extraterrestrial beings come into your space? Was it an abduction? Was it a visitation? What was it like? And what did you see?
It was never an abduction, thankfully.
Yes.
Like I said, yeah, when I was 14, that was the first time I saw something that I did not know how to describe.
Mm,
And all of a sudden, I saw in the evening, I was getting ready to go to bed. And in the evening, I saw uh, some creatures, some weird creatures that I never saw in my life.
mm,
They were gray,
mhm,
skin just like ours, but very wrinkled on some
mm,
reason.
mhm.
And they were about 3 foot tall.
Right.
And there were four of them, four,
Mm,
but only one was communicating with me.
mhm,
And as soon as I saw it, I looked at it, I got so scared. It wasn't that it was imposing all of this intense fear, as
Mm.
a lot of them can when you
Right.
approach them closely. This one wasn't, and I looked at it, and it said, "Don't be afraid." And of course, I was so afraid, and I ran away, and I hid myself in the bathroom,
Right.
and I closed the door. Next thing I knew, it goes right through the door and comes right to me and said, I told you not to be afraid of us because we are not here to scare you. We just need to relay some information to you.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so I got out and I started communicating with them, and they would come quite often, and they would relay some interesting things to me.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, I spoke to my parents about it because it was such a strange experience for me.
Right.
And I told them about it. They didn't know what to think about it. They didn't know at
Is an
all.
alien in the house? Yeah, that'd be
Alien
different.
in the house, but they
Yeah.
thought, okay, so we've had some experiences with this child before, so it is okay. We're going to find out the answer. So about a week later, my mom calls us all, and mind you, it is the 1990, right? She calls us all to the TV, and there was a show talking about the grays. In fact, that at that time there were a lot of people starting experiencing that uh, of different ages, and they were making drawings of them, and they were published right there on that show.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom said, "Oh, that is truth. Like whatever you're seeing is actually the objective reality, and a lot of people are seeing it right now. So whatever is happening in the world, that this is something that we have to take as a reality."
Right.
Um, and one of those things that I heard from them. And of course, as a child, you're 14, you don't take this thing seriously. And I
Right.
remember sitting at the New Year's table, right, celebrating. And for us, it was
Right.
it wasn't Christmas, it was the New Year's that was celebrate. I told my parents, I said, in 6 months, there's going to be, in June of that year, is going to be an awful earthquake in Iran, which neighbors with my country, Azerbaijan, and we're from the capital, Baku, um, and thousands of people will die.
Wow.
And
That's
there was this silence in the room. This is what are you talking about? This New Year, we need to have good celebration.
yes. Oh boy. And
And yes,
did it happen?
and it did. They forgot about it, but it did happen. And once it happened, it was June, I believe it was June 21st. And that was one of the most devastating earthquakes in that area. About 50,000 people died, and many were injured and lost their
Mm.
homes. It was bad.
Wow.
Yes, and
Wow.
also they were talking to me about the destruction of the country of the Soviet Union that it was. We lived at that time.
Mm.
Um, it was a destruction, and it was so painful for everybody. It was a crazy economic collapse. It was
Mm-hmm.
political collapse. It was bad,
Mm-hmm. Right.
very bad. Wars, murders, bloodshed. There was a lot of it. So, and they warned me. They warned me about it, and when I ask them, why are you telling me all these things? I cannot change it. Neither can anybody else. They said we're here to just warn you about it, warn the
Right.
humanity. And I still, even to this day, I don't know the reason why they would be telling us about it.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing that can be done.
Mm-hmm. Um, well, if you are a generational experiencer, it may have something to do with it. Did you ask your parents if they had ever had experiences, or do they know if your grandparents were experiencers as well?
Well, they never experienced an ET, as I understand it, and there was not that much interest in them before.
Mm-hmm.
However, we lived in a mountain area. There were a lot of hills and
remote.
mountains. Yeah, but the thing is, it wasn't remote. It was right there in the city, and
Mm,
but a lot of people. And nevertheless, we lived on a hill overlooking the Caspian Sea, the Gulf
right,
of the Sea,
right, right.
and we would be able. In the evening, we had an unobstructed view, a gorgeous view, and we would see a lot of craft
Mm-hmm,
flying around that would not make any noise.
mm-hmm,
And at that time, there was no aircraft that would have supersonic abilities and would
mm-hmm,
be able to fly silently,
right.
but it would just be doing some strange trajectories in the above the mountains, above the city, above the sea,
Mm-hmm,
and then disappearing. So we saw that, and also, uh, of course, it is a cliche to see the UFOs with blinking lights of the blue, red, yellow, green, and that's some of them had that.
right, right. Well, I mean, Russia was well known for its communication with extraterrestrials. I mean, you had many countries that were basically trying to go into space or, to communicate with ET, but their scientists had a way, I guess, of doing even in the 80s and 70s, modern like our CE5s, they knew that they could go to specific bases, military bases, and just call them. They would come. So it doesn't surprise me. I mean, they were very advanced in the way that they could just bring the communication and bring these beings to them, and they did. So you would have had, I think, more sightings, and they were pretty open about it as well. I mean, Russia was one of the first countries to actually disclose. I'm sure, I mean, not everything. No government will disclose everything, but it was amazing to me that, they just like, yeah, here's some recordings of our pilots, and this is what our scientists did, and it was just pretty fantastic when you think about it.
Yeah, but it's also, I've noticed that while they were disclosing, and that probably would happen in the 80s, in the 90s,
They
correct?
did
Probably
disclose
that's the
later
time.
on, yes, but their
Later on.
scientists were doing all of this in like the 80s,
Oh,
late
yes,
70s into the 80s. Yeah. I know we
absolutely.
we covered it on the Gray Zone. It was just like, what? This was very impressive. Very, very impressive.
They could have done a lot more if they did not close so many laboratories, because I know that from the beginning of the 20th century, a lot of people, scientists who did research on psychic abilities, on anything that has to do with UFOs or with extraterrestrial communication, the laboratories were closed. And of course, at the Soviet times,
Right.
they will cease to exist. They would be either sent to labor camps, but
Mhm.
in order to avoid the spread of the information,
Mm.
of course, there would be their lives would be ended,
Right.
for the lack of a better word. Yeah,
Right.
so
Yeah, we can
and
leave
that
it
is
there.
so, yeah, yeah, yeah. And that is so interesting because I've noticed that even here in the United States and all over the world, somehow when we reach a certain level of communication or understanding about the ETs,
Mhm.
somehow those people cannot continue their research. Either they stop getting the funding that they used to be getting,
Mhm.
or something happens to them and they no longer can perform their research, and just plainly all of their literature
Mhm.
disappears.
Mhm.
What do you think about it, Michelle?
Well, I know that the United States, is the last one to fully disclose. So that tells me that they feel it's on a need to know basis and that the public really doesn't need to know. I think that you have whistleblowers coming out because they want the information to be told. They want the world to know exactly what's going on. There's a lot of hidden secrets. There's a lot of lies, like most governments. I mean, they feel maybe it's has to do with national security, and they don't necessarily want everything getting out there. If you're going to have back engineering or reverse engineered crafts, then you don't want that information getting out there, because you don't know what your counterparts have. What's China coming out with? What's Russia coming out with? They're, as they say, taking extra precautions. But the UFO, the field of ufology will say, well, no, we all know what's going on for the most part. Everybody's got a camera phone. You're gonna, for years, at least 2 decades, we've had camera phones, or 15, 20 years easily. And people are taking photographs, people are seeing and having experiences, and they're talking about it. With the internet, people are talking about it, and they're reaching somebody on the other side of the world that they're making friends with, or they're listening to a radio show such as this, and they are communicating. And now they know, oh wait, Germany was in contact with extraterrestrials, or beings from the stars, and they were given technology because allegedly the United States gave asylum to these scientists and brought them over at the end of the war. So I don't know. When you look at all of that, what are your thoughts?
That's so interesting that you mentioned that, because Einstein, in fact, he first asked Soviet Union for asylum.
Right.
And that's crazy that they refused. They refused and said, no, we're not going to have you here. So he went to United States.
Right. See, and that tells you right there that there's something. When they're fighting so hard to keep it from going public, well, of course, people are going to think, what are you hiding? And why don't you want us to know? But there's so many. I mean, presidents have spoken out. You've had astronauts who have spoken out. You've had engineers at many of these places have spoken out. And then you just have people who have been experiencers throughout the military all over the world who have spoken out. You can only hide it for so long. And, the last administration said, no, you're going to disclose. New administration, nah, you don't have to disclose. So I don't know. Will we ever see a disclosure in the United States? I don't know. Eventually, I think it's slowly happening. Yeah.
Just like you probably know that not all information that we receive, we can disclose to anybody.
100%.
Not talking about even the general public. There's some that needs to be kept. I can't say secret, but should be kept behind the curtain, right, and not disclosed
Mhm.
at all. And there's some information that needs to be told. And for example, I would like to say, and also by coming here on your show, that it is a normal experience. For example, I know that a lot of people, as soon as they have one ET experience, they write a book, the whole book. Something happened to them at 4 years old, and they grow up, and just based on that experience, they write a book and they travel the world with it. And that no more experiences happen to them since then, but they take it and run with it and write books about it. And good for them. Good for
Mhm.
them, because as we grow older, we become self-conscious about this and
Mhm.
we don't want to go into public to talk about it.
Right.
But for a
Right.
lot of people like myself, this is such a normal experience,
Mm.
uh, ordinary experience, and nothing out of ordinary.
Mhm.
And I always thought that I was kind of a um, modern, not really a witch, but what would you call it, like the knowing mother, the modern one without a wart on her nose.
Right.
And that is good to know, right? It is
Right.
good to be this modern person in the world, and at the same time, be have the your education, have the background in psychology, in all of the different studies, that even like linguistics, and thank God that I had it, because that helped me a lot in my research.
Mm.
going back to ancient civilizations.
Yeah.
So it is an ordinary experience for many. And that's another reason why I have not been really going out and talking about it, because it's okay, it's normal for me.
Right.
Um,
I think pre-war or pre-air, pre-Roswell, it was pretty normal for the most part. You get back into ancient cultures and you see it everywhere. You see it in ancient monuments. You see it in some of the out of place artifacts they find, or just artifacts in general that are, not even that. Look at the Mayans, for instance. I mean, only going back, you know, 500 to 1,000, 1,500 years, they would emulate what they saw and experience, and that comes into monuments, that comes into petroglyphs, hieroglyphs, culture, statues. I mean, there's a statue, I believe, I think it's in Peru, Brazil or Peru, of a reptilian, because it goes back into their ancient oral history that during a cataclysm, it was a reptilian who brought the humans down underground, and they cared for them, they educated them, and there's a statue that commemorates this.
yes, and I believe that there was in Peru, and that is a
Yeah.
normal occurrence. I hear
Yes.
a lot, especially nowadays, and I believe that it started at the beginning of the century, speaking about reptilians and how bad they are. There's a race of reptilians, and they are taking over the world. So I'm not quite sure if there is a bad race of reptilians, but I know
Well,
that we all came from them, and we have reptilian DNA in our human DNA,
mm,
and it's of course there's a scientific evidence for that, and just came
mm,
out in the recent years. But we have reptilian DNA, so just saying that reptilians are taking over the world is uh, kind of a little bit inconsistent with our own biological
mhm.
lineage, right? So
Well, I
if
think it comes down to what we've been conditioned to believe. I mean, it's like anything. You have good people, you have not so good people. I imagine it's the same in dealing with different races of many types. You're going to have good reptilians, you're going to have not so good reptilians, and you've got your draconians that are more of a warring type of race. I think until you actually come across them, I mean, I know people who remote viewed them, and not necessarily great, not great experiences. Then you talk to Joe, and he'll tell you that he's had contactees from ICAR, which is his organization, flat out come out and said, no, it was a great experience. I don't know. Quite sure how I'd feel if you sort of wake up in. I think it's a startling thing, because I'm quite comfortable being an experiencer, and I've had experiences with different races. Um, but there's the whole, okay, you're in my room. I am supposed to feel very safe and comfortable in my bed, yet here you are. So that's, I think, where the problem lies for me. Whereas I think if most people were wide awake and had this experience, not when they're falling asleep or not being woken up, even driving in the car can be startling because you're supposed to be focused. But so some people go camping, some people just go for a walk and claim to have these incredible experiences. I think it'd be a little
yeah,
easier to take.
while they are incredible experiences for us and for experiencers, of course there is a stigma of over the over pathologizing all of these experiences, and immediately, like for example, I since I was a child, I could never feel that I am just alone in any space. I knew that there were a lot of them all the time next to me, and I was
Mhm.
so self-conscious, even going to the bathroom, for Pete's sake, there's somebody next to me, and I did not like it.
No, it's
Yeah,
intrusive.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But at the
Right.
same time, if you talk about it, that's paranoidal schizophrenia, and then you're labeled for that for the rest of your life.
Hmm.
But if we just looked at that from a different perspective, and thank God that there are such branches as, of course, the parapsychology that studies that, and also
Yes.
transpersonal psychology. There's archetypal psychology that studies that and gives the evidence to it. So I think it is absolutely important because people know where to go with their experiences and be heard and understood.
Hmm.
Because I know that even to me, people would come just to a regular therapy session and they would say, and they would just be eating their tongue and just saying that I think that I have a demon. Finally, one woman spit it out.
Yeah.
And she's like, please don't think anything else for me because I don't want to be portrayed as schizophrenic or anything else.
Right.
And I told her that absolutely okay to share that. And she did have one. She did have an entity
Hmm.
that we got rid of. And she no longer had all those physical infirmities that she had for the past 5 years.
Hmm.
And if she didn't come to me, nobody would have told her that, but she felt it. She felt it. And when we were able to take that entity off and detach it from her life,
Hmm.
she was no longer suffering. She got out of her depression. And if she went to just a psychiatrist, that would be a lifelong medicalized living, right? Existence.
Hmm.
Nevertheless, I'm glad that there are people like myself, like you, Michelle, and there are a lot of us that people can go and share and be heard and understood.
Well, no, I agree with you. I think because it's more widely accepted now. Um, Whether a person has an attachment or not, there's something that leads them to believe that there's something there, and you have to explore that, and you have to give them dignity. You have to be cautious in how you deal with people because they look to you to be the rock, to carry the load for a little while so they can just take a breath and realize that they're not alone in the experience any longer. There are people who sensationalize that, and there are people who actually do the right thing and assist. Unfortunately, I, I think you're in a position in your field to be able to add a professional label to it as well. And I don't know if label is the right word, but when they're coming to you for assistance, you're not, and I don't want to say you're just a researcher because I was just a researcher. I'm not a psychologist or anything like that. And I've had people say to me, "Oh my God, like, you did everything right and you assisted me." And I've worked with psychologists and psychiatrists and doctors, and because it was part of one of my prerequisites would be psychological assessments just to be sure. Nobody wants to be spinning their wheels. And if there's something deeper going on, you need to explore that. And I would need permission from these practitioners to continue working with the individual. Like you have to show due diligence in what you're doing. So you are already eliminating those steps because you are the professional who can give, a proper assessment as well as dealing with the research part of it.
Yes, and I have been doing this work quietly. And of course, I did not go public for quite a long time, up until 20 years have passed. And, after that, I got my PhD. And of course, that you think that, okay, so now what you do with PhD, you're a researcher, you have to go teach, you have to
Mhm,
go into research.
mhm.
And all of a sudden, I heard, well, how long are you going to be running away from it? And it dawned on me.
It's like,
Oh
what?
my God, I
Yeah,
thought,
right,
how long are you going to be running away from it?
right.
And not only that, they asked, you cannot run away from your gift. You cannot run away from your destiny, from your assignment in this life. I hate to say assignment because I don't like anybody to have any assignment for me. I want to
Mm-hmm.
run my life, and nevertheless, this is not the case, always
Right.
the case.
Right.
This is unfortunate. Unfortunate. I know a lot of people that want to have contact with ETs, with spiritual guides, angels.
Mm.
I know a lot of people want to do that, but at the same time, I never wanted to have it. And in fact, I once asked not to have it, at least 50%, to take away some of the things that I see because it was cruel, it was nasty. I would just go out and I would see all of these
Mm.
entities and the sources of people's problems, either psychological, physical, and social life. That would be brutal. That was brutal. So I
Mm.
asked. And
Mm-hmm.
next day I woke up, 50% was gone. And I started living my happy life as I knew it. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, because still being able to see what I could see.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Well,
only started to see it when I needed with the specific
mm.
people, specific assignments that I had to do.
Mm-hmm. It makes a difference. It wasn't your time, and there was a respect there, which I think is important. People need to consider the fact that you don't have to be afraid. There is respect. I've had times where, I come in and I'm just, coming down to lie down and go to sleep for the night. And then I have hands on my head. And I've woken up with hands on my head. And I could feel like energy. And I'm just like, Jess, I'm too tired. and and all of a sudden it just stops. Yeah, I'm a little bit like ornery. Don't wake me up, but I just like I am too tired. I just and there are other times I was just before I go to bed, I'm like, I know you're there. I hear you. I feel you. Just just let me go to sleep and at least pretend like I'm having a good sound sleep. And then I don't care after that. So and I wake up exhausted, but I know I've been somewhere because I woke up exhausted and yet I've apparently had this great sound sleep. So to me, I became very comfortable when I realized I wasn't being harmed. I was being given information. We were having an exchange of information. So when you took all that away, did you regret it at any point?
I did.
And did you ask for it back? And what
And I
happened?
didn't get it back.
No?
No.
Oh,
That was an interesting experience because at the time you have a family, you have kids, you want to have a seemingly normal life.
yes. Yeah.
But the thing is, I stepped on the path that I was not supposed to. So,
Mm.
yes, we talk about having a family, having children, but I was supposed to be doing something else, and that was not my time to do it.
Right.
And when the time came, I said, okay, this is the time that I can devote more time to it, and I would like to get it back. I
Mm.
didn't, and which is okay with me because uh, there are different projects that I had to be working on. And the thing is, what I realized that we are not doing in this life what we were just set to do at that particular time. For example, if there's an assignment for our lives, we um, just start doing, go in the direction of this assignment, right? And along the way, we are given different assignments.
Mm-hmm.
And that was so strange for me to understand because I thought, okay, that I have done this, and somehow um, I no longer need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a different assignment and a different assignment, different role that I had to fulfill. I was needed someplace else. Like for example, I was um, I was told that I needed to work with the borderline personality disorder.
Right.
And I'm like, what am I going to do with it? Like, how am I going to do that? I've never worked with it. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't have any clients, I don't have any patients with a borderline. And I was told that they are already prepared, they're waiting for you, and they they know where to go.
Right.
All of a sudden, I started seeing tons of people with borderline personality disorder anywhere I went, and that became the sole line of work, my therapeutic work.
Right.
That became the sole. There was nobody else for any different issue. That was it. I was working with borderline. And
Mm,
that was difficult because no therapists want to work with borderline personality disorder. It's very difficult, and it is
mm,
supposedly untreatable, although lately there's evidence that people can get better.
mm-hmm.
But one day I hear, okay, you're done with it. I'm like,
Ooh.
what are you talking about? I'm done with it.
I'm not going to be done.
I'm not done with it. This is who I am. This is what I do. This
Right.
is, I help people. Guess
Right.
what?
Right. That
They
is tough.
told me to go do these two shows. And then you came on my path. But the thing is, I thought, okay, I can just do both, right? I'm gonna do still do my therapy. I'm gonna do with the borderline personality disorder because I
Hmm.
really liked it and was pretty good at it and helped a lot of people.
Hmm.
Guess what?
And then here you
Every
are.
single patient with borderline personality disorder disappeared.
Right.
It's like all of a sudden they got better.
Hmm. Hmm.
And this is the thing because they would tell you along the way as you go what you should be doing. And as much as we don't want to be listening to that, we don't have any other choice. And if we do, they will redirect us back. And if we still don't take it, there will be a lot of problems in our lives. For example, I ran away from it at the age of 17. And by the time that I got graduated with a doctorate degree, I could no longer. My entire life at the was almost in ruins, and I had to hold it together because otherwise it would just fall apart. I
Right.
had the crazy sleep disorder that I was unable to overcome. Like, what is going on in my life? I
Mm-hmm.
can barely hold myself together. And that's the thing. If you run away from your destiny, what you're supposed to be doing, there is no way for you to have a happy life if you don't do what you're supposed to be doing. It's just
True.
like Jonah in the belly of the whale, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
You're going to be swallowed. You're going to be swallowed if you don't want to go to Nineveh, right? And preach there as it is in the Old Testament, right?
Hmm.
And um, it is so interesting that all of those archetypal stories they have reflection in our lives. That's why they are still existing on our plane with
Hmm.
fairy tales, with mythologies, because they still have the relation to our personal lives here.
Hmm. I agree. I agree. Um, I must want to backtrack one quick second. To Tamara, hello. The problem with these types of visitation, they still have a stigma. It's a double whammy. The public still is liable, or still liable attachments or label. So I think you're trying to say attachments is crazy, and from aliens, don't ask permission. So the person pays for these experiences. I agree. Any way you look at it, you don't get nobody asks permission whether you're dealing with paranormal, whether you're dealing with, um, different otherworldly species or interdimensional, dimensional beings. I think we share space with a lot of beings, different dimensions within our space. But it's like I always say, it's like listening to the radio. You can only listen to one station at a time, even though there's a lot going on in between. So I personally believe, and Dr. Yan, you can fill me in on what you think, but I personally believe there's a big crossover between um, ET visitations or experiences and the paranormal.
Hmm. That is so interesting that you mentioned that because what we think in paranormal, of course, it's a vast area.
Yes. Yeah.
What I learned through my own personal experiences and my own personal research, that I no longer call, in fact, that world spiritual, because that's what we call it, spiritual world. This is how it is for us. We are
Mm.
real, we're physical here, and
Right.
they are not. In
Right.
fact, that they have their own physical bodies, only on a different plane, in a
Mm-hmm.
different dimension. And
Mm-hmm.
this is what I realized. So for me, it is not a spiritual world. It's the world as physical as ours.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of things, what we call ghosts or spirits, or not, I wouldn't call ghosts, but spirits, demons, angels, right? What we
Mm.
call them, they are just ETs, and different kinds of ETs that come here to visit. Some actually live here.
So we're getting bleed throughs, dimensional bleed
We're
throughs.
getting bleeds, exactly.
Right.
And it is okay. Uh, it is a normal occurrence. It just, we have to understand that we are not alone here. And of course, this is such a beat up phrase, and oh, we're not alone in
Mm.
this universe. We are not. And if we just listen to our own intuition, it is called intuition. That's it. We
Mm.
don't even have to have any ESP paranormal
Mm-hmm.
qualities in order to tap into other dimensions. We just have to use our intuition. What
Well,
is that
I
intuition? It's
agree.
like intel, like being in God and getting the information from that
Mm-hmm.
part of the universe.
Well,
So this is my
that's a communication. I think you want to communicate with, you know, ET, then you definitely have to be switched on because they're telepathic beings. So you have to be able to use an ability to some point, I would think for sure. But there's just a lot of things that if you research for example, if you go through the characteristics of a haunting or, a demonic attachment, or a lot of them surprisingly mirror extraterrestrial visitations and experiences. And people should really look that up because they are very much the same. And in all the people I've worked with, at least half of them through the years, I've worked with hundreds of thousands of people, like hundreds, easily into the thousands. And half of them had ET experiences, not just paranormal. And they'll say, oh, yeah, well, I remember this and this and this. I'm like, I am one of those people. I had very malevolent energy, growing up in my space. And, I also had extraterrestrial experiences. So now that that I'm older and I am more versed and researched a lot, I tend to second guess. What was I really experiencing? A bit of both for sure, but what was the most prominent? What came first? It's like, the chicken or the egg. What came first? The ET experiences or, you know, something more malevolent, caught something's attention from somewhere else. It's craziness.
Yeah, I wonder why we don't call those grays just ghosts or spirits.
Mhm.
Do you think it's just a matter of terminology?
Ah, yes. Well, spirits I look at, I've always believed was definitely essence. I mean, I think you can call them either. I don't say ghosts really all that much. I do try to say something along the lines of spirits or disembodied energy, something along those lines, because it could be anything. But there's a strong belief, and contrary to everybody who's seen me on TV saying I believe everything is a demon. No, that's the only answer they took out of the 5 I gave them for each question. but there's a lot of things out there that make people believe that they're experiencing really crazy things, like telekinesis, psychokinesis. We're powerful beings that project energy like there's nobody's business, and it's very difficult, I think, for some people to grasp the fact that they can be a very powerful being and project incredible energy, it's easier to believe that there's something more malevolent that's creating havoc in the space. I mean, if you're scared enough, you will project. You will really project. And a lot of the things that happen could be footsteps, doors opening and closing, all kinds of things that you could project that energy. People call that poltergeist energy. So you see, we deal with all kinds of different energies, and people will report on a demonic, um, you know, infestation. Well, I smell sulfur. Sure, but if you are actually having ET contact, you will still smell sulfur.
Exactly.
You see, like there's so many characteristics that mirror one another that you have to explore it all now. I've had people say, well, I have this is happening, and then you remote view it and you don't see anything. So then we'll start seeing other things like, there's a gray. It's like, well, that explains it. And then you find out in some cases that they're a military contact. Oh, yes, I have a family member who's high up in the Air Force.
This is so
Interesting.
interesting. Yeah, absolutely. And speaking about the military contact, I had a very interesting, hold on. Let's just backtrack just a little bit, and then we're going to talk about the military before I forgot.
Right.
So, what we call demons, for example, when I was studying the subject, I studied the mythologies from all cultures and whatever were called demons and demonic entities.
Right.
And of course, a lot of them, they became demons, but the ones they were gods in a different religion. And then if the new religion comes onto the space where the previous religion was held, of course they're going to take over the land, and they will take their religion and gods from that religion, and they will call them demons. So they will demonize that culture, demonize that religion, of course, and exalt themselves. And we see that throughout history.
Well,
So yeah.
I agree with you. And a lot of it is religion.
Yeah, but where do they come from? For example, if we look at demons, right? If we look at King Solomon,
Mhm.
which could be, as they say, is just an imaginary figure, right? It's just a mythology. He never existed. But then, nevertheless, he built a temple, and somehow demons were helping him to build a temple. And how
Mhm.
can demons be summoned for him to build a temple? And
Oh, you'll
have
get some Luciferian dark magicians who will tell you that they can.
Well, but the thing is that while they can, how in the world do they possess all of this knowledge in exact sciences as we know now, and but didn't know at that time?
And that's what separates it from, I guess, the story.
From the story. So what happens with if you look at any classification, a demonic classification, you would see that every demon has the set of qualities that they come here to teach people. And oh my God, now we decided to say that, oh, but for that, whatever they give us, they have to take our soul. We sell our soul to
But
devil.
there's a belief that we don't own our essence, therefore we can't sell it. What are your thoughts on that? I'm telling you, there's so much out there that
Michelle, what you're talking about, it's mine, it's mine, it's mine, it's me, myself, and I right there inside.
I know. No, but there are some there are some this is a perfect question for your next guest, Father Bob. Ask him if he believes that we actually own our essence, because there are other exorcists who say we don't own the essence. Maybe if you're, the Catholics will tell you, no, God owns you. God owns your essence. Therefore, it's not up to you to sell it. So we're going back to religious mindset again, right?
Well, we that will be from the religious standpoint, right? Because from the Catholic standpoint, and then
Right.
again, we have our own point of view on that, and that would be interesting to see what he thinks. But
Right.
at the same time, um, if we go to the times before the religion, when people were spiritual, right, before the organized religion, we would see that they venerated all of these forces. They learned from them.
100%.
They learned from them, and they did not call them demons, any negative entities, because they would come, and some of them taught sciences, hard
Yeah.
sciences,
Shadow
others
work.
literature,
Right.
metallurgy, anything. So if you look at the Greek mythology, for example, and that is the craziest thing, because looking at the Greek mythology, just take it as an example from the
Mm-hmm.
point of archetypal psychology,
Mm-hmm.
that the personages of those stories, they are alive.
Right.
And if we look at uh, what are their names? The Cleo. She was inspiration. What are they called?
Right.
I forget the word. The inspiration that comes to us. There are three goddesses, right? One of them is Cleo, I think.
Right.
So what happens that you call upon them, and they would come and give you an inspiration, an
Right.
expiration too of that
Right.
inspiration.
Right.
So I did that. I did that. I experimented with it, and I said, okay, let's look at it. And I would
Mm-hmm.
call for some of them and say, okay, like I need the inspiration in this area. And surely enough, I would even feel the presence, and I would come, and I would be able to write on that topic. So with mathematics, for example, right? With math, and I'm a complete zero in math, like zero. I hated math.
I'm with you, sister.
Ah, I
No,
hated
no.
that.
Right.
But at the same time, I would, if I needed to pass exam, for example, or do the assignment, because the
Mhm.
PhD level you have to. And I hated that statistics. We were just talking with Dr. Elliot about it. We hated it. I would ask. I would ask for the insight. I would say, all right, here's the deal. I need to do this. I need to pass this exam. I need to have the information in my brain right now.
Mm.
And I would be able to solve problems, those that I never was able to do before.
Right. Right.
So many people, and not that I conjured anyone. I didn't do any rituals
Right.
with any physical objects. I did not do that. I would just ask for them to come, and that's as
I was
simple
going
as
to
that.
say, I agree. I've never had to do anything like that. I do believe it's with a mere thought, to be honest.
Yeah, and the thing is
Don't
that
try it at home, kids. Don't do it. No. No,
no,
I don't
don't do
want to
that.
say you can do it with a mere thought, and I end up with, these people saying, well, we want to try it. I'm just trying to discourage that because
If it was that easy, my dear, everyone would have done it. If it was
Mm.
that easy,
Yeah, no, it can be done.
but it
I
can be
don't find it,
done.
I don't personally find it difficult. But I think if you are, let's say, versed in energy work, if you are versed in the academics behind it, you know, I think it could very easily be done. And I think there are people who stumble on it, and those are a lot of people who get in trouble. The stumblers, because they
That's
don't.
true.
Yeah,
Hmm.
sometimes you just have beings that are attracted to people, and people, you know, it could have to do with other lives, their previous lives. We are in a time, I think, where conditioning and religion is conditioning. It is. There are some that are belief systems, there are some that are ways of life. They're not so much religions, but there are some big ones out there that it's about conditioning. And some of these words, are like demon is a very, there are people who believe demons are a thing. There are people who believe nope, they're a race, of ET. I guess if you look at a reptilian, and if you are a person of faith, you would say demon. If you're a person who as an experiencer, they would say no, reptilian, draconian. Like they can break down what they're really seeing. So do you think there's a difference, or do you think they're one and the same? That it's been mistaken identity.
You can't even go and utter these words in any church, in the synagogue or the mosque. You can just go and talk about it, of course, because immediately you would be deemed as a heretic. You will be excommunicated from the church or from any religious organization. So
Mm,
the
yeah.
questions that I would ask people who would come to me with that, demonic and this and that, I would just ask them a question. So, what do they think about our DNA and having reptilian DNA in our blood,
Mm.
in our DNA, the strand of reptilian DNA?
That would
It's
be
a
hard.
science. It's
Yes.
hard sciences that have already
Yeah.
proven that. So if they're so against reptilians, right, people, and they think that, oh, that is Satan. So how come do we have the reptilian DNA in our DNA? We just have to be able to ask ourselves questions, or be able to ask questions.
I think it's also conditioning. When you look at serpents and dragons, their ancient representation of that is knowledge. It's not what you physically look at. It is that's knowledge.
It is knowledge, and even the Bible says that be wise as snakes and gentle as doves. So how come snake all of a sudden became a wise one, right? If it was deemed
Well,
as a Satan.
just look at the Vatican's new, their new oh, what am I word I'm looking for? Not a stadium. It's their new meeting room. It's just this huge. If you look at it from above, it's the head of a serpent with red eyes.
Yes, and all the inside, when you sit there, you're just sitting in the head of the serpent.
That's right. Knowledge. I still believe it's just an old belief system. They're very, very into the old belief systems, right down to astrology and the zodiac, and it's just mind bending. But people of faith, just you go based on what we are conditioned to do, right? I
Isn't
mean,
that
from the time you're a
interesting?
child.
Yeah, but isn't that interesting that the Spanish Inquisition would be killing people for those exact interests
Right.
in mythology,
Mm.
in different kind of entities, right? In astrology, and nevertheless,
Mm.
they themselves would have deep connection to Egyptian mythology, right?
Yes.
Egyptian religion, and
Yes.
which takes roots in Sumerian religion.
Yes.
So if we look at that, and if we look at the obelisk right
Yes.
there instead of in front of the St. Paul's Cathedral in
Hmm.
Vatican, like what is it doing there?
Exactly.
Right. Then if we
Exactly.
look at the clothes that Papa is wearing, right, we would see the hat that he's wearing in the shape of a fish,
Hmm.
and so many different attributes from the Egyptian times, from the Sumerian times, that
For sure.
allude to the gods that existed before, that were fish type gods, that were reptilians. So somehow um, we, like you said, we were conditioned to be who we are
Hmm.
by the church, but nevertheless, they contain that knowledge,
That's right.
special knowledge that we are not told about. It's a secret knowledge.
Absolutely. And that goes back to the old ancient mystery schools. We go back even into ancient Egyptian. I mean, the age of Taurus, so you had bull worshiping. We just went through the age of Pisces. Just look at the
Hmm.
Pope's hat. The way he used to wear it was the head of a fish.
Right.
And now we're getting into the age of Aquarius. Like, just watch for those principal aspects, and you'll see it. It's all hidden
I,
in plain sight, right?
oh, yes. But the thing is that in the scriptures, it also says that those who have eyes will see, and those who have ears will hear. So what
Mm-hmm.
do they say? That's an allusion to something that you have to be paying attention to. If you don't, if you've been conditioned and preconditioned and done with conditioning for the rest of your life,
Right.
then you will not hear that. There was
That's right.
a minister in the Spanish church somewhere in Spain. I think it was in the 90s. He learned that Christianity takes root in Egyptian religion. He did not even go back further to Sumerian. He learned that it takes root in Egyptian mythology. He took off his robes and he walked away forever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's those who have ears will hear, and those who have eyes will see. And we're not saying anything about against any organized religion. It's just something that is right in the plain view in front of us, right?
Right.
And we're not asking any questions.
Right.
They,
Well, they
yeah,
keep us very distracted to not ask for, to not go and take notice. But people are taking notice. I think we're going into a new age. I'm going to do a really quick station and sponsor ID, and then we'll just go to a few comments and we will continue on. So, for those just tuning in, you are listening to The Outer Realm with myself, Michelle Desrochers, and my special guest and friend, Dr. Yana Greenberg. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network UFO, Paranormal Radio Network 105.3 FM from the Gulf Coast, 107.7 FM from New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by these amazing guys, Folgers Coffee. Mm, and we're very appreciative of them. They sponsor both Wednesday and Thursday nights. So big thank you to Folgers. Big thank you to Justin Snicker for our intro and our outro. Big thank you to Steve McGinnis for our banners and our logos. We are so very fortunate. So we are talking about pretty much everything that is extraterrestrial, UFO, mythology, ancient civilizations, paranormal. If you're just tuning in, chime in, get into one of our 7 chat rooms. Roku does not have a chat room, but you will be able to find us on Roku. You will also be able to find the archive on Roku. So check it out. So here is Dolly. Whose comment. Now, Dolly and Preston Dennett have the Light Gate on Monday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern here on the network. So, hello, Dolly. I always want to break out in song when I say it, but so she says we are not, we are autonomous. Sorry, I'm okay. I'm French. Beings we choose. Our life is your path. I have had guides and counselors with ET, but at the end of the day, I make my own decisions. She said, let me just get rid of this one. She goes on to say, yes, each is responsible to gain wisdom and knowledge. Those who are confused have issues. ET grays are physical. A ghost is a disembodied, not physical. No, exactly. Now, Wayne has a question for you. Dr. Greenberg, do you have vivid dreams of traveling dreams? And if so, are you able to recall them upon your waking?
that is a great question, Wayne. Yes, yes. I have been recording my dreams since I was 16. And I have done my own extensive research into the realm of dreams, dream symbology, and understanding what dreams actually mean for us as humans, and what functions do they have. And of course, I've been writing them down. And interestingly enough, I was able to go back, and I had a whole system developed for deciphering my dreams, because as a symbologist, and I had to become a symbologist in order to understand how our soul is talking to us, and is talking to us through the symbols. Of course, that was so interesting, because I would have recurring dreams. In different settings, that would be same recurring dreams in the same storyline,
Mm.
and I would just write them all down. And at the end, I would put the words and concepts that would intertwine with the same concepts in the following dreams, or the dreams that I had before. And I would even just number the pages, because I would be able to go back and see that I already had that dream about 5 years ago, and in connection with deja vus. So for me, the
Wow.
deja vus are the dreams that we had already before. Because if
Mm.
I have the deja vu, not all of them, of course, because we have too many of them, I'm able to go back to my notes and look at them and be able to track down the date and the time when I had that dream.
Mm.
So at that time, of course, it wouldn't make any sense for me. But years later, I would understand that, yeah, I had it. Somehow it transpired, like you said, Michelle, it bled through, right,
Right.
to me. But
Right.
later on, it became a reality for me.
Right.
So
Right.
interestingly, yes, somehow lately, I did not even have to study the lucid dreaming and how to have it. And lately, I started just by accident having lucid dreams and dreams in the dreams. Very interesting. That is fascinating. So I
Mm.
would encourage everyone to write down your dreams, because my clients come to me and they tell me this incredible dreams, and we are able to decipher them and to understand what is happening in the lives of those people, and how those dreams are guiding them forward or preventing them from certain events.
Mm. I believe it is. It's just messages from your subconscious, perhaps. Um, I don't know. Do you think that you actually travel, that you're not necessarily dreaming?
Yes, because like you said, you go to bed and then in the morning, then you wake up beat up, right? But you
Yeah,
slept.
pretty much.
And
Yes,
then you
pretty much.
know that even when you wake up at night, you go back to sleep and you continue to have the same dream. How would you
Mhm.
explain that? 5 times that you wake up at night, and then 5 times you go back to continue where you
Yes.
stopped,
Yes.
right? And you continue to see that. In my understanding, this is we in our dreams we travel.
Yes.
We travel. Sometimes, yes, our subconscious talks to us, but as Jung said, this is how our soul talks to us through our dreams. But what is a soul?
Mm-hmm.
Soul is a combination and the vessel of archetypal complexes of different archetypes,
Yes. Yes.
right? We contain in the when some people say that, oh wait, it's not possible to have our spirit there and
Mm.
also some other spirits. Oh yeah, it is quite possible. If we can have a Holy Spirit, as they say, within us, in with our own spirit, it is possible to have other spirits as well. We call them archetypes professionally.
Right. No, no, there is a very strong belief system that you can live multiple lives at a time, or that you can house, that your spirit could be, you could have a portion, if a splits four times, let's say, that you can have portions of that spirit and maybe others as well. I find it all very fascinating, because it's just one of those things that until you actually get there, you're not really going to know 100%, but just researching it is always so fascinating. And I also believe that we are made up of energy and essence, why would we just stay in our body while we sleep? It's just a vessel. It would be like sleeping in your car in the garage at night. But I do. I look at it that way. I wouldn't do that. I would get up and I would go do something. I wouldn't just go hang out in the car. It's like, all right. So, and people who are in comas come back and have talked about having amazing experiences, or induced comas, whether they're induced or just it's a natural coma. They come back with incredible stories. And sometimes, they get something step in and they don't remember anyone around them. Like, it's interesting how essence can work. But
Yes, it is. I had near-death experience one time, and I understood that it is quite easy to leave your body and get the hell out of it,
Right.
and possibly not come back. So
Right.
we have to be pretty careful with it, and especially at night. There's no accident that so many spiritual currents and religions they say a certain prayer or mantra at night when they go to sleep for protection, because we do travel. Certain dreams that we have, they are not our dreams.
Mm.
For example, I had a dream when I was taken to some sort of a spacecraft, and I would be there somehow with my family. And there was a woman, and I don't watch science fiction. I don't watch anything that has nothing to do with reality. I'm a realist, right?
Right.
And I only watch those horror movies with the true stories behind them,
Right.
like the Conjuring type, for example, right? Because I
Right.
know that those are realistic stories.
Right.
But
Right.
what was I saying?
I don't know. I'm rolling with you.
Yes.
I'll
So,
follow along.
so yes, I was taking okay, so to the spacecraft, and I've never seen anything like that before. So I did not have any frame of reference. I would
Mm.
have said, okay, so
But
I
maybe that was a
wanted.
visitation. Maybe that what you were taken on board a craft for real and
So
meeting other people
probably,
there.
yeah, and there were people that were so strange, looking very strange.
Right.
And they were taking us from room to room and actually having a lot of um, people conglomerated in different rooms
Right.
for procreation. There were women in one room, a lot of them just conglomerated right in the middle. And there were men, young women and young men in a different room. And somehow there was the place which was right like a pool in the middle of another uh, big room
Mm.
with the water, and there was a young man laying in it on its back with blonde hair, with bluish eyes, and there were lights around the perimeter of this little pool,
Mm.
and he slept there with the eyes open. And that the woman that was giving us a tour, she said that he is for procreation, for creating a new type of humanity. I got scared because it involved my family.
Right.
And you would
Right.
think that, okay, if you don't have any frame of reference, if you didn't see it anyplace else, how would you be able to recreate it in your mind if you don't travel to other dimensions?
Yeah. No, I agree with that. That would actually be a really interesting experience. It's amazing that you were able to remember that. Honestly, I have some vivid experiences, and then nothing ever like that. It's almost like, no, you're not supposed to know. And I'm told it's like, well, because you asked and not. I'm thinking, don't listen to me when I'm not in my physical body because I don't know what I'm talking about or what I want. So if I say when I'm awake, I want to know, I want to know. But still, I only get bits and pieces. But yet, when you go to sleep or like incredible things happen and I wake up going all this great stuff. So something must go on. But
We will
that
learn
would be
so much
interesting.
about ourselves if we wrote our dreams down. It just took
I
few minutes
have,
of our
yes.
time in the morning to write it down, to be able to track yourself even years back to see, oh, this is what it was. Because we
Yeah, but
forget.
sometimes you can do that. Honestly, Dr. Yonder, sometimes you get up and you just kind of go, you just open your eyes to focus. It's like gone, just gone.
Immediately.
Yes. Yes,
So that's
exactly.
why I think Edison, this is, he was sleeping, in fact, with a metal jug, I think, or metal plate in his hands, because he was getting insights from his intuition, from his dreams. And he would just go to sleep. And as soon as he fell asleep, of course, he would drop the metal plate on the floor and would make a lot of noise. And that would make him wake up. And he would remember his dreams this way.
That is crazy. I did not know that.
I don't want to
And
do it. If
and
I
that
go to
works.
sleep, I want to sleep.
I don't know. Beats hypnosis. I don't know. Um, I don't know. What do you think about hypnosis now that I mention it? Because realistically, you open that door, it's a careful what you wish for. You can't necessarily just undo it.
You can't undo what?
Hypnosis. Like once you open that door and to get, to recall your experiences, you can't necessarily go back from that.
Well, it's because as a hypnotherapist, of course, I did a lot of past life regressions with people
Oh,
because I know that they're so therapeutic.
right.
It just depends. Of course, when people learn something about their lives, they get very sometimes petrified what exactly that they saw and why they
Right.
saw that. That would be crazy, of course, for them. Um, my thoughts are disappearing. They're slipping into the unconscious. That's what
I,
it is. They're
I'm
slipping into
just zinging
unconscious.
things out at you. I just thought I had to ask because I know you do it. And,
Oh
and
yes,
sometimes it's not for everybody. Sometimes like, do you ever meet somebody that you look at them and you kind of go, you might just be best to wait after counseling with them. It's like, yeah, you may or may not do okay with this at this stage because you can't just erase it, can you?
you can't. Well, if it is a traumatic experience, it is possible to give a direction to the person to forget, and it is
Right.
possible to forget. So that is why we can have an abreaction. We can have some unpleasant experience
Mm,
because of so many different reasons, and
mhm.
we would be traumatized. So we have to,
Right.
if we're seeking hypnosis or hypnotherapy, we have to seek professional advice, professional
Mhm.
people who've been specifically trained in that and who did not complete the weekend course and go immediately with the dirty boots into somebody else's soul. We have to be very careful about it.
Mhm.
But yes, once you learn about it, you're never the same.
Right.
Of course, you can brush it off and say, "Oh, that is just nonsense that happened to
Listen,
me." You know, it's just
it
fairy tale,
did.
very subjective.
No, you
Yeah,
just planted that. I know. No, I know.
but when
I
you put a connection between the person's experience in the past life, for example, in
right.
the to the present life, and the habits and the uh, what is the word I'm looking for? Habits and preferences
Right.
that we have in this life and certain events that did not make any sense to us and but have a connection and explanation in the past life, that's
Mm,
what the game changer for people, whether it was a
right.
bad experience or a good experience, we can learn from both.
Mm. Let me ask you this. Do you find when you're dealing with past life regression, do you feel some of the experiences that people are having, is it past life or is it more ancestral imprint, like it's like an ancestral imprint? Some people will call it DNA imprinting.
Could you elaborate on that a little bit? What does it
Okay,
mean?
okay. Well,
Ancestral imprint.
sometimes we think that something we're experiencing was from a past life, but realistically, we are just it's when I say imprinting, it's something that would have happened to, let's say, a family member, even going back generations, and that we are feeling trauma. So let's say you had a family member, like my grandfather, for instance, he was shot in the war, spent 2 years in France, blah, blah, blah. But I have that same, well, I go back to Templar, so I have a very strong warrior instinct. But could I say, for example, or experiencing it with my grandfather, oh, I was shot in another life, and I'm
Mhm,
experiencing trauma from that, but really it was my grandfather who was shot.
mhm.
That's a lot of people are coming forward now. They know, what I thought was a past life was just trauma, ancestral trauma that got carried through, and of course it gets passed down because we all share the same DNA.
I haven't come across anything like that because people would be having their own personal emotional connections to that time period where they go, their own personal emotional connections.
Mm.
um, with the in case of the generational and ancestral, that is what I do to look into the person's um, family line,
Mm.
ancestral line. That's what I would do.
Right.
But this is very
Right.
interesting that you just gave me an idea to actually do that through past life regression, and
Right.
for the person to be able to see it for themselves instead of just me looking it up. That's what I call look it up.
Right.
Look it up, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So instead of me asking the question and getting the information, they can do it themselves, which would be karmically even better.
I think so. Like Wayne said, what we think was our past life was actually, for example, my great grandfather had that experience, and the experience was transferred into the family DNA, genetic memory. Yeah.
Yes, this genetic memory, and it actually, I think that I have already mentioned that Dr. Elliot. Uh,
Yes.
one time, um, and of course, I experiment with myself, with my life, with my soul. You know, of course, like any scientist, we all find our all the disorders in us. Psychologists, that psychiatrists, while we go through school, will find everything in us, right? So we do
Yes.
research on ourselves as well. So
Yes.
one time, it was several years back, I became really perplexed why a lot of people were betraying me. That and I was not an still not an easy person to trust. But
Mm.
those that I would bring into my inner circle, they would betray me, and
Mm.
not lightly. So I started wondering why. Of course, it was very upsetting to me at the beginning. And then what do you do with it? You look for the solution. And I decided to see perhaps it was in my ancestral line somewhere that I'm carrying that load up to now.
Mm.
And I discovered that during World War One, my great grandfather, which is so strange that I'm thinking about it, it was a different grandfather who I never heard of,
Right.
because I know of the one that my mom's that was
Mm.
in the white Tsarist army, and he was
Mm.
serving in the army. He was the white, and I think that the other one was red. In any case, so what happened that he, in fact, made a promise and a deal with one person and never kept his side of the deal.
Ooh. that that would fall under karmic, karmic points right there,
Right.
transferred over. Yeah.
And we live our lives just thinking that, oh, I'm just unlucky. Oh, just, all people are like that. And we just blame them, or maybe something's wrong with me. And I thought something's wrong was with me. When I
Mm.
looked it up, I realized that he made a promise to a woman and he never kept it.
Oh.
And that transferred to me as his
Right.
descendant. So once I released myself of that, and I said all of the debts were paid before, um, I no longer felt it. And thankfully, there were no people who betrayed me to that extent ever since. And of
Mm.
course, we may say, like, psychologically, we can just approach it rationally and say, oh, yeah, you learned your lesson, right? And now you're more cautious, and that is why that doesn't happen to you.
Right.
No, those
Right.
people don't come along in order to do that.
Right.
So that's very interesting. So we think we blame ourselves, but nevertheless, we never even think of going back
Mm-hmm.
generation wise.
Mm-hmm. It would make so much sense. because there are people who just have no rhyme or reason. There's no explanation as to why they experience certain trauma and certain whatever. I have all this terrible luck. I don't know why this always happens to me. The universe is out to get me.
Oh yeah.
It's just, and yes, it could be. You have to look back sometimes.
But we have to take responsibility instead of just blaming anyone else and even ourselves. We take responsibility and try to look for the ways how to rid yourself of that, to find the
Mhm.
source of the problem.
Okay, here's a question. How do you remove generational trauma?
With generational trauma, it may seem that as difficult thing to do. In fact, our words have the power. The whole world, our world was created with the words. And while we think that some people have more power than others, that they have more gifts, that the divine is listening to them more than to me, for example, we all have the right to tap into our own bloodline, into our own ancestral line, and to take care of things there. It's like in those movies that we see, the science fiction, oh, we travel into the past and we'll fix it there, and then we're much better here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same way we can do that to alter our present reality. We can go back and see what it is originally.
Mm-hmm.
From the very beginning, you have to know what it is, what the
Mm-hmm.
problem is. And after that, you can just talk it away. Not just wish it away. You can talk it away, you can order it away. But the thing is that people do it differently. Um, everybody does it differently.
Right.
But you yourself have the power to go back and say, that debt had been paid by my ancestors already. And
Mm-hmm.
here I am, free of that. And I no longer wish to continue that line of behavior in my life. So break it.
Mm-hmm.
Break it in your own words that you don't have anything to do with it.
Right, right. Um, Contessa, hello. You can honor your ancestors with an altar with their pictures and say prayers to cleanse the traumas or debts as well. I think it's about intention. From what you're saying, from what Contessa is recommending as well, intention. You can say any words you want. I think it's important to have a strong intention and to put a lot of power behind the words that you're doing or the actions that you're doing, or the words that you're saying, rather. And I believe that with that intention, that energy goes into it. And we are really, don't forget, we really are powerful beings. We are beings of energy having a human experience, essentially. Dolly made an interesting comment earlier. She goes, we have DNA from all over the universe, technically. So if that's the case, we should be superheroes.
But like
Realistically.
you said, we were conditioned, Michelle. We were
Yes.
conditioned to take our eyes off more important things. We were conditioned to be sheep.
Yes, you're not
And they
wrong.
stripped us of our powers, of course, and we had to give power to some supernatural, superb being instead of just relying on ourselves.
Hmm. I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. So moving forward, then, what's the answer? What is the answer? We shouldn't fear, obviously, having extraterrestrial contact. We shouldn't believe everything in the paranormal because things are not always as they seem.
True.
We are conditioned to fear things we can't see. We are conditioned to fear, especially in the dark. And we shouldn't. You notice how most paranormal experiences, or they everything seems to happen or be centered. Investigations in the dark. No, no, no. Hauntings happen 24/7, whether it's light or dark. But I think it's easier to deal with if it's light. I mean, Man, I have investigated locations that were so off the charts. You know, daytime, nighttime. It seems to all come down to mindset. We're fearing the wrong things. I think maybe things might be reversed.
I
What
think
would
it is a lot of the times we have to approach it with humor as well. Like you said, don't fear, don't be afraid.
right?
I gonna go back to that military situation that you said, right? That the people in the military, they can experience, of course, their
Yeah.
instances of the UFO, meeting UFO and speaking to the extraterrestrials. The power of listening to yourself is so immense. For example, uh, yes, that would be my advice, not to fear anything. And of course, don't go anywhere that you don't know without researching that area. But since I have already been communicating with the Grays, I was so surprised to just see them probably about 6 months ago.
Mhm.
And it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was wide awake all of a sudden, and I couldn't go back to sleep. And I said, okay, something is happening here. All right. So I got up, I got dressed, I went downstairs, I put myself coffee at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I said, all right, here's red carpet. Come on over. What do you want to tell me? Right. And humor helps. Otherwise, it would be so petrified, like, oh, who is here again? Like, when it disturbing me, I want to sleep.
Right.
And I see the same four grays. One was the tallest one, and the three were the shortest. And they came like in a pack. And they come to me and they tell me the stories. And one of the main one that really um, didn't really shock me, but it was very unpleasant to see this imagery. They and I just want to warn everybody, I don't have any political preferences except one, and I'm not going to talk about it here.
Yeah, we'll leave that there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the thing, yeah, but the thing is, I saw one of the world's leaders um, in here in United States, and they showed me that his hands, like the blood drips, not just drips, but pours off his hands.
Mhm.
And they say that he is responsible for so many deaths in this world.
Right.
And that was so unpleasant for me to see that, because I don't like this side of blood, but it was just so vivid right in front of me. And I
Mhm.
asked them, why are you showing it to me? Because what can I do about it? And again, they said that you just need to know.
Mm.
And I, that was very interesting what happened, because I turned on the TV at the time. Um, well, but I asked them before when they started to leave. I said, no, hold on, come back, because I need to ask you some
Right.
questions
Right.
since you're already here, just like catch the moment. And I asked them because I've always been pondering about the reason of the sleep disorder that I have. And to me, I asked them what it was, and I needed to know the answer. And they said that I belong, like I come from one of the ancient civilizations, and we're not going to talk about which one right now, but I come from there, and I have all the answers in myself.
Mhm.
That was very interesting because I've never heard of that civilization before.
Mhm.
And I had to research it. I wrote it all down. But the interesting thing is that they left, and I turned on the TV and YouTube, and I see the story of Linda Howie Moulton. She's an investigative
Linda Moulton
journalist.
Howe?
Howie, right? Howie?
Oh, Linda
How?
Moulton Howe?
Linda Moulton
Yeah.
Howe. Howe.
Yes.
Okay.
Howe.
That's how you
Yeah.
pronounce Howe. Okay.
Yes.
And she had an episode on interviewing a military sergeant from
Yes.
his experience in 2015 in Georgia.
Mhm.
And he had the same experience although he said there were 5 of them, and he said that they told me that they were a council of 5. Those that came to see me, they said that we're a council of 4.
Mm-hmm.
So evidently, they're all different ones that coming and talking to different people, but he had the same message that they come to warn him of things, unpleasant things that are going to happen to this earth. Even if we can't do anything about it, they come to warn us of the danger.
Mm.
And of course, there's more to that story, and we are almost out of time.
We are.
We are,
We
but
are.
just
We
wanted
are.
to say not to be afraid of it,
Right.
but
Right.
listen to yourself and try to ask
Yes.
questions,
Right. No, I agree with you. I think too many people, there is, they do instill fear. And then we have to worry about things, like Project Bluebeam coming up, and this is a big thing, and drones are everywhere, and everything you see is not necessarily out of this world. There's just as many here, I think, as there are off planet. I think we're dealing with a lot of dimensional beings that can just pop in with a mere thought if they want to. There are portals. I mean, the planet is littered with portals and vortexes, and honestly, the stargates. So everything is there. It's not hard for them to come in here, and many of them look like your neighbor. So don't be so frightened. Just basically take the time and just explore it. It took me a while, and I'd known it deep down. I've been an experiencer since I was a child, and so when I talked to my mother, she goes, "Yes, we were, and yes, so was your grandparents on both sides, and we're all negative blood types, all of us. Like back then, the chances of 2 negative blood types meeting and getting married were like there's only 3% of the world's population at that time, and yet." That's my whole family. So, there's something to be said for that as well. Let's believe that a lot of negative blood types are experiencers. So, with
Oh,
that being
yes,
said,
myself.
yeah, see, there we go. So, yeah, there we go. Here we are. Yana's just taken over the board. I don't have to do it.
Oh, there was a question, and
I know.
I
Why don't you put?
responded.
We can address it if you want. We do have a
Or
few
maybe
minutes.
I just forgot that it is not my show.
Okay, no. Go ahead. We can address it. She goes, I've never seen aliens, but I have for many years. Dreamt of them, and it's always about invading Earth, and it feels like a war is happening around me.
Could be, because if we look at the ancient sources in ancient books like Mahabharata, for example, there are a lot of texts that in fact talk about the space wars, and they were not between humans; they were between the aliens, extraterrestrians, terrestrials, not aliens. We have our own aliens here on Earth.
It's true. It's true.
So quite possible. Yes, we see them. We see things that we don't have any frame of reference about, and we see things that are in our collective unconscious. And let's just pay attention to our dreams.
Right. Well, and that's where we have to leave it off, unfortunately, because we are almost right at the top of the hour. So, guys, thank you for joining us in the chat room. You make it that much more fun. You really do. We appreciate your questions and your comments. So, thank you. Big thank you to Dr. Yana Greenberg
Oh,
for spending the evening. And
thank you for
uh,
having me.
it was a lot
It's
of
been a
fun.
pleasure.
I loved it. I loved it. Big thank you to Folgers Coffee. Big thank you to Justice Snicker and Steve McGinnis. We appreciate you very much. Remember to go check out Roku to watch the archives. Do it. Do it. Do it. Tomorrow night, we welcome the return of Jack Roth, who is a film producer. He's been on the show a few times. He's going to be discussing his third film, Extraordinary: The Revelations. Last time he was on, he talked about Extraordinary: The Seeding, which was all about hybrids, which was very cool. So this is going to be great. It's going to be a fantastic show. So make sure you tune in. And in the meantime, have yourselves a great Thursday And we shall see you all tomorrow evening. Thank you and good night.